Hi again, Royce Morales, transformational facilitator, spiritual teacher, radio show host on healthylife.net. And I have been talking to you about reincarnation, and I wanted to continue giving you some information about that. It's something that is so fascinating. And like I said in my last video, a lot of people don't believe in reincarnation in our Western society, but most people, I would say 2/3 of the world actually believes in it. So we're just kind of catching up in our Western society. But today I wanted to talk to you, I wanted to give you some various theories about reincarnation. There's lots of them, but I've divided them into 4 basic theories and kind of just go with whatever you feel is the right theory for you. I'm not trying to sell you on any of these theories, just presenting them. There's the first theory, which I think is pretty easy to understand, and that is that each lifetime is a progression upward. And I'm putting upward in quotes because who knows what upward is. My definition of upward is getting to the point where we're functioning mostly from love and acceptance and our power, our purpose, etc. So this particular theory would say that every lifetime you progress by learning certain lessons and by going through certain experiences. And eventually, and this is what makes this theory kind of interesting, eventually when you reach a certain level of an ascended master, when you're just strictly functioning from love and a pure heart, spirituality, etc., you don't have to return. Now that one people usually like. It's like, oh good, I don't have to come back. But I have to tell you, I personally feel that if you're one of those people that's saying, oh, really, I did it this lifetime, I don't have to come back, chances are you probably do have to come back because you'd still be coming from an ego place. Sorry, don't mean to cause any disappointment out there, but anyway, so that's the first theory, that each lifetime is a progression to a higher consciousness, a higher place, so to speak. By the way, this particular theory is that if you do want to come back, you can choose to come back, but you would choose from a really higher consciousness place, maybe to help others or to just play from a higher consciousness place. But that's the first theory. The second theory is very similar to the first one, that each lifetime is a progression upward. But this theory says you always have to come back. There is no other option. You're stuck here. Okay, so that's the second theory. The third theory is that there is no progression upward, that each lifetime is just about experiencing things. So maybe one lifetime you're Attila the Hun, and the next lifetime you're Mother Teresa, and the next lifetime you're a trash collector. And it's all just about having life experiences, physical body experiences. There's no progression upward. It's all about the bigger picture of experiences. Now, the fourth one, I can't really even explain it because it's just a little bit too out there for me, but this one is called the continuous time theory. And that is that all lifetimes are occurring simultaneously. There is no past, there's no future, it's all just now. So I won't even go into that one because it doesn't make sense to me logically. So the thing that I do know about what I've gotten in touch with in past lives is that everything is a choice. You choose your parents, you choose the body that you're going to be in, you choose the time span, the historic time span that you're needing to be in. You choose particular issues of this body, you choose particular challenges, you choose your IQ, you choose your geographical location. All of that stuff is chosen on a higher consciousness level because of what you need to learn and because of how you need to evolve or clean up. All of those things are chosen. That's a tough one, I know. But again, this is all based on what I've personally experienced and what my students have experienced in getting in touch with their past lives. It's something that goes on a spiritual level. You might have memories of this in the between lives state, where you literally are deciding, oh, those two people, they look like parents that I'm supposed to be with. Maybe I've been with them 20 times in other past lives. Um, and maybe this lifetime I need to clean things up with them or help them in some way. I know that when I got in touch with choosing this particular lifetime, I very consciously chose parents that I thought I could help. So that's part of it as well. Now, on a fear-based consciousness place, there's two elements going on here. We have our higher consciousness that chooses things in terms of what we're supposed to learn and clean up. And we have our lower consciousness, our fear-based consciousness, that chooses from a less picky place. And it just simply wants to be back in a body desperately. So it's like, okay, that one looks good, let's grab it. So, it's like the going into Macy's when they're having a sale on items and it's like, oh, I need that, I need to grab that. That's a terrible analogy, but that's kind of how your fear-based consciousness sees things. It's all about being in a physical form so I can survive and be here. Now, the other thing that I want to mention in terms of past lives, and that is that each life is similar in terms of patterns. I talked about that a little bit in my other video about reincarnation, but there's patterns. There's similar people, there's similar events, there's similar things that we're supposed to learn. By choosing a lifetime that is similar, we're given an opportunity to learn those lessons and to complete things and clean things up. Now, the lower consciousness, the fear-based consciousness, does not like that at all, and it's going to have you resist those lessons, try to avoid them, run from them, etc. But on a higher consciousness level, it's just going to keep repeating until we get it, until we get those lessons. What are those lessons? Well, thought I'd bypass that one. No. Okay. So the lessons are very basic, very spiritual lessons. You've probably heard them. The lesson about letting go. We're not supposed to be attached to this physical form. It's okay if things come and go. We're not like grabbing and needy and desperately clinging to things and people. So that's a big lesson. The lesson of forgiveness. We're here to forgive others. We're here to not feel like victims. We're here to forgive ourselves. That's huge. That's so important. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I encourage people to look at their past lives so they can get in touch with things that they did that they haven't forgiven themselves for yet. And they're carrying that around and it's still impacting them and affecting them all the time, subconsciously. So we're here to forgive ourselves and others so we can get to a pure place of acceptance and love. Of course, we're here to remember our true purpose. Capital P, purpose. Why are we here? What are we supposed to be doing in this life? What is the most important thing that we're supposed to bring? I've created several YouTube videos that talk about purposefulness and how we're walking around feeling kind of lost and confused and meaningless. And what is our true purpose that's going to bring us that sense of meaningfulness and importance into our lives? And we all have a capital P purpose, whatever that is. It doesn't have to be saving the whales. It could be, being the best mom or being the best student or being the best race car driver or whatever it is. We're here to experience that and get in touch with that. And it's our own best, nobody else's. We choose a lifetime with the same people in it over and over and over again. I mentioned that in my last video. Why do we do that? So we can clean things up with them, so that we can really connect and get to that point of loving acceptance of them, so that we're not, trying to change them or hating them or judging them, but reaching the point where we see them as co-teachers in our life. Those people that we've chosen for big reasons. I know my mother and I have just a very tumultuous relationship, to say the least. And every time I would look deeper at that, I would realize what an incredible teacher she was for me. She showed me some deep mirrors that I didn't want to see about myself. She was the one, she was the shining star of my life, waking me up to all I didn't want to see about my own self. So we keep choosing these people. We choose different relationships with these people. And in the next video, I will talk about those relationships, but there's a lot of very profound connections that we have with people that start to make sense when you start to look at your past lives with them. Those people that bring up the deepest issues and the biggest buttons and the biggest challenges are the people that we have chosen frequently. In fact, I always say this, but we probably chose our parents over and over again, maybe in different roles, because we know that they have the biggest impact in our life. And we know that we're probably going to have to be stuck with them for 18 years. So they're the ones that are the biggest lessons and the biggest challenge for us. You know, I call, we have soul relationships, soul groups, all kinds of things that I'll get into in the next video. So those are some reasons and some things to know about reincarnation. I do want to talk a little bit about how past lives start to show up for you. I was mentioning the fact that I got in touch with my past lives spontaneously in a meditation that I was doing. A lot of people have spontaneous experiences. Maybe they're walking down the street and all of a sudden they get a flash or a feeling of deja vu. It could be a past life showing up. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in a meditative state. I know for me, the only way I can get in touch with past lives is in that meditative state. And I do help people to do that. It seems to be the most powerful way to do that. What I also wanted to say is that sometimes when you're meditating or when you're in kind of an altered state, or even before you fall asleep, past lives might start to appear. But people have this notion that it's going to be kind of unfolding like a Hollywood movie or a TV show. It may not be that way. Sometimes it is. I know for me, a lot of times it's been like this full-on dramatic curtain parting moment where I get in touch with my memories from past lives. But a lot of times it can be very subtle. A lot of times it can just be, you just kind of sense it. Sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's auditory, sometimes it's just a flash of, you know, a blip on the screen of your mind where you suddenly realize, oh, that's my past life. But a lot of times when I work with people, they do have these very dramatic experiences. Sometimes it can be just a preview. I know for me, for several meditations, I would just get like this, you know, like a moment, a showing attraction, future attraction blip. And, you know, a year later, I get more details about it, that sort of thing. A lot of times, past lives may show up as symbols, symbolically. I had a student one time that every time she would meditate, she would see just these weird images, like little cartoon images. They were always like Huey, Dewey, and Louie. I don't even know if that cartoon is still around, but she would see these images, and you know, Huey, Dewey, and Louie would be doing these weird things. And eventually, when she was more ready for it, she realized that those were past life memories showing up in the form of a cartoon because she couldn't deal with getting in touch with her actual memories. And once she started to see them as memories and not cartoons. So yeah, they can show up symbolically, they can show up in weird ways. Some people get flashes of songs, or, you know, a sentence shows up in their meditation, but a lot of times that is how your past lives are showing up. Sometimes people just sense them, and that's not unusual either. So if you're just kind of sensing something, you know, trust it. Trust that it's there for a reason, a knowing, a thought. A lot of people say to me, well, I feel like I'm just making this up. Well, you're not. If you were making it up, it would be a complete different experience. So I encourage people to trust themselves, even if they feel like they're making it up. The way that I explain that to people is, okay, make up a story about a horse. and, you know, they access their imagination and they make up a story about a horse, versus suddenly in their meditation, a story about a horse appears. That's the difference. One is consciously doing it and the other just kind of appears. The other thing that people often say to me is, oh, I'm just having this flash of a Native American scene because I used to read books about Native Americans all the time, and that's why. Well, my answer to that is, why were you drawn to read stories about Native Americans? You know, I know in my own life, I remember being a child going into the library, and I was just drawn to certain books about Native Americans. I'm using that as an example, but that's what I was drawn to. I would read incessantly about that. And then 20 years later, I'm getting these past life memories about being a Native American because my higher consciousness was pulling me to those books so that I could get in touch with that eventually in my life. So trust that too. So trust whatever comes to you in your meditation. I highly recommend having a guide, me, to help you get in touch with those past lives, because, you know, I know what I'm doing. I've done this for 4 decades, and sometimes it's a little scary, as I've said before. I know the right questions to ask. I assist you in trusting whatever is there. So if you're feeling like, yeah, maybe it is time for me to get in touch with my past lives, reach out to me. My website is roycemorales.com, and I would love to work with you. It is quite an adventure looking at past lives. And the purpose for it, as I keep saying, is to clean things up and to get your power back. And that is what you deserve. So thank you so much for listening, and please subscribe so you'll find out about all these videos that I'm making about such interesting topics. Thank you, and I will see you soon. RoyceMorales.com.